Hello, girls. Hope you're all well and in best of your health. Today, I shall start with the very first chapter of your syllabus and of your English textbook, Mindscapes. And the first chapter of this syllabus is Leela's Friend, written by one of the eminent literary figures of English literature in India, R.K. Narayan. So, before going into the analysis or explanation of the chapter, I would like to give you a brief note on the author himself. Because I want you to know about R.K. Narayan, because to understand the story in its full sense and vigor, you should know the author also. So, let us know something about R.K. Narayan. The first English writer to win the Sahitya Academy Award, Narayan's simple, unassuming narrative continues to strike a chord with literary enthusiasts. Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Narayanaswamy was born on October 10, 1906, in a small village, Rasipuram in Madras. He breathed his last on May 13, 2001 in Madras. Reared by his grandmother, Narayan completed his education in 1930 and briefly worked as a teacher before deciding to devote himself to writing. Narayan typically portrays the peculiarities of human relationships and the ironies of Indian daily life. His style is graceful, marked by genial humor, elegance, and simplicity. Among the best received of Narayan's 34 novels are The English Teacher, written in 1945, Waiting for the Mahatma, written in 1955, The Guide, written in 1958, The Man-Eater of Malgudi, written in 1961, The Vendor of Sweets, written in 1967, and A Tiger for Malgudi, written in 1983. He wrote a number of short stories also. He also published shortened modern prose versions of the two Indian epics, the Ramayana in 1972 and the Mahabharata, written in 1978. He was a leading author of early Indian literature in English, along with Mulk Raj Anand and Raja Rao. In a career that spanned over 60 years, Narayan received many awards and honors, including the A.C. Benson Medal from the Royal Society of Literature, the Padma Vibhushan and the Padma Bhushan Awards, and in 1994, the Sahitya Academy Fellowship, the highest honor of India's National Academy of Letters. Having played with a peacock and a mischievous monkey in his childhood, Narayan became an avid reader, and his early literary diet included Dickens, Charles Dickens, Arthur Conan Doyle, and Thomas Hardy. The present story, Leela'S Friend, is one of the best-known short stories of R.K. Narayan and is taken from his The Malgudi Days. The theme consists of 4 factors: betrayal of trust, true friendship, poverty of the downtrodden, and exploitation of cruelty of masters. So girls, this was a little bit about R.K. Narayan, one of the eminent writers of English literature in India. And so, here we have the very first chapter of our syllabus, Leela'S Friend, This is a short story and it is a very touching story of a 5-year-old girl and her friend. So the title of the story is Leela's Friend. So it is very well understood that there are two main protagonists or the two main characters of this story. One is Leela and the other one is Leela's friend. So now, before going into the text of the story, let us read the introductory portion of the story. Leela's Friend is taken from R.K. Narayan's popular short story collection, The Malgudi Days. The story explores the issues of the interaction between different social classes, friendship and trust, prejudice and exploitation. So this was the introduction of the story. Now let us start the story. The story goes like this. Siddha was hanging about the gate at a moment when Mr. Shivshankar was standing in the front veranda of his house, brooding over the servant problem. So, here another character enters, that is Mr. Shivshankar. And Mr. Shivshankar is the owner of this house and he is the father of Leela, a 5-year-old girl. And this main character, Siddha, also is standing at the gate. And Mr. Shivshankar is very worried. He is very sad because he has a servant problem. That means he does not have a servant at home at this point of time. And he was certainly in search of a servant. So Siddha is a character and is a servant in this story. And he is also searching for a job in somebody's house. So Siddha came at the gate of their house and Siddha is said to be saying, "Sir, do you want a servant?" This was a question asked by Siddha, whether they needed a servant or not. "Come in," said Mr. Shivshankar. As Siddha opened the gate and came in, Mr. Shivshankar subjected him to a scrutiny and said to himself, "Doesn't seem to be a bad sort. At any rate, the fellow looks tidy." So now we see that Mr. Shivshankar opens the gate and he asks Siddha to come inside the house. And then Shivshankar is seen to open the basket of questions to Siddha. Means he asks a number of questions to Siddha. See, here we see the special trait of the masters, that they do have an ego, a self-image of being a master. And he puts forth Siddha a number of questions, whether he is really capable, or rather to say, he is really eligible to become a servant at their house or not. So, the first question he asks Siddha is, "Where were you before?" he said. Now, the first question was, where did he work before coming to their house? Siddha said, "In a bungalow there," and indicated a vague somewhere in the doctor's house. And Siddha replies in a very simplistic manner, and perhaps he was ready with the answer. Okay, now he says that there is a bungalow up there and I worked there, and it was a house of a doctor. Now the second question comes from Mr. Shivshankar. What is his name? Now, in the reply of Siddha, we see that a servant is not supposed to know the name of his master. So, in reality, he does not know his master's name. And he says, "I don't know, master," Siddha said. "He lives near the market." Only he knows their address and their house. He doesn't know the name of his previous master. Why did they send you away? The third question coming up from Mr. Shivshankar. And he asks Siddha, why was he driven out of the house? Or why was he sent away? They left the town, master, Siddha said, giving the stock reply. See, a very beautiful usage of a word, stock reply, means he was ready with the answers. So in this situation, at this point of the story, we come to know that Siddha was in search of a job for a servant at any house, and he was in a habit of replying to such questions of people asking him, and so he was ready with the answers. Mr. Shivshankar was unable to make up his mind. He called his wife. So now at this situation, we see that Mr. Shivshankar somewhat liked Siddha, but he was not very sure whether Siddha was able or eligible to be a servant at their house or not, whether he would be doing the work perfectly or not, whether he should keep him as his servant or not. So he called his wife to help him in his decision to keep Siddha or not. She looked at Siddha and said, so here enters Mrs. Shivshankar, and she looks at Siddha and said, he doesn't seem to me worse than the others we have had. So she says that previously the servants they used to keep at home were not good enough. But Siddha was seeming to be better than the previous servants they kept at home. And now we see the entry of the main character of this story, Leela. Their 5-year-old daughter came out, looked at Siddha, and gave a cry of joy. Now Leela, we see from this very point of time that she is a child of 5 years, and as usual, as the other children are, she is also the same, and she is very, very innocent. Just having looked at Siddha, she became very happy. She was overjoyed. She was joyous, and she screamed, "Oh, father," she said, "I like him. See, how beautiful is this? How innocent is this child?" She immediately likes the man, and she says, "I like him. Don't send him away. Let us keep him in our house." See the statement, "Let us keep him in our house." She doesn't say, "Let us keep him as a servant." So this is the point where we should understand, girls, that children are innocent. And when they grow up, when they become adults, they try to differentiate between people according to their social classes, according to their jobs they do. And at this age, Leela is not differentiating between the classes. So she says very innocently, "Let us keep him in our house." And that decided it. And so, as the situation was that Mr. Shivshankar and Mrs. Shivshankar were not able to understand whether they would keep or should keep Siddha in their house as a servant or not, Leela helped them to make their decision. Rather, she made the decision, isn't it? Now, Siddha was given 2 meals a day and 4 rupees a month. But at this point of time, I would like to show you a picture, girls. So this is the picture Isn't it very beautiful indeed? Siddha was standing at the gate of Mr. and Mrs. Shivshankar's house. This couple was standing also at the gate, and Leela with her toy with a red ball is also standing at the gate, and she made the decision that Siddha was not going away. Siddha was to be kept in her house. Siddha was given 2 meals a day and 4 rupees a month, in return for which he washed clothes, tended the garden, ran errands, chopped wood, and looked after Leela. So we see that Siddha was ultimately appointed as a servant at Mr. and Mrs. Shivshankar's house, and Leela immediately liked him as a friend. So Siddha was given 2 meals a day and 4 rupees a month as a salary, but in return of all these, he had to do a lot of things: washing clothes, tending the garden, and doing other works all in the household, chopping wood, and also looking after Leela. Siddha, come and play, Leela would cry. So Siddha was appointed as a servant, but to Leela, he was a playmate, he was a friend. So many times when Siddha was busy doing his work in the household, Leela would start shouting and ask him to play. So he had to drop any work he might be doing and run to her, as she stood in the front garden with a red ball in her hand. So let me show you another picture how Leela was holding a red ball in her hand and Siddha was standing in front of her. Now this is another beautiful picture. See how Leela is holding the ball and Siddha is looking at her with a very smiling face. Isn't it very interesting, girls? His company made her supremely happy. This is very important, that Siddha, who was a servant at her house, to her he was a friend and a playmate, and whatever he did made her very happy. She flung the ball at him and he flung it back. They used to play with the red ball, as you saw it in the picture. And then she said, "Now throw the ball into the sky." And he used to instruct Siddha also. She said, "Throw the ball into the sky." Siddha clutched the ball, closed his eyes for a second, and threw the ball up. When the ball came down again, he said, "Now this has touched the moon and come. You see here a little bit of moon sticking." Now see, in the childhood, everybody of us used to listen to some stories, maybe narrated by our grandparents or narrated by our parents also. And those stories happen to be very imaginary. Am I correct, girls? So in this situation also we see that Siddha is imagining or creating certain stories for Leela. And Leela was very excited to hear such stories. And now we see that Siddha is creating a story with the ball and the moon, as all the children are very much very attracted by all the celestial bodies, the sun, the stars, the moon. And Leela is no exception. Leela keenly examined the ball for the traces of the moon and said, "I don't see it." Now, as Siddha had said that yes, the ball had gone high up in the sky and had touched the moon, so Leela was examining whether the ball really had some traces of moon around it sticking. So, but she couldn't find any trace of moon. "You must be very quick about it," said Siddha. Now, Siddha is creating, the story. Now, he says, because it will all evaporate and go back to the moon. Now hurry up. Now he says that if you do not do it quickly, then all the traces of the moon will evaporate and go back to the moon once again. You have to be very quick in this. He covered the ball tightly with his fingers and allowed her to peep through a little gap. Now we see that a very beautiful relationship was there in between these two characters, Leela and Siddha. And so when Siddha said that yes, there is the moon inside the ball, so at once what Leela did? Leela looked inside the ball with a crack, and look what she says. She says, "Ah yes, I see the moon. But is the moon very wet?" Now the children are very innocent indeed, and so is Leela also. And we see that she could see the traces of moon or the moon itself in the ball, and she comes up with a lot of questions. And now see how Siddha is replying to all her questions in a very simplistic and innocent manner also. Now he says, "Certainly it is," Siddha said. "What is in the sky, Siddha?" Another question, another very, very ordinary question, a very innocent one from Leela. He says, "What is in the sky?" A very genuine answer, a very beautiful answer from Siddha. He says, "God, of course. There is God in the sky, as we all know that God is in the sky. And we always happen to tell the children in their stories that God is in the sky. If we stand on the roof and stretch our arms, can we touch the sky?" Now, at this point of time, I would like to show you a beautiful picture of a big silvery moon. So this is the picture of a big ball and a silvery nature of moon. This is the celestial body that attracts every one of us, and children are no exception to this. Leela is also very attracted to moon. Let us find out what is there in the next part of the story. Now Siddha says, if we stand on the roof and stretch our arms, can we touch the sky? Another beautiful question from Leela. So she thinks that if we can stand on the roof and stretch our arms, we can touch the sky, because she doesn't know how far the sky is from us. Okay? Not if we stand on the roof here, he said. Siddha said that no, we cannot touch the sky in that way. We cannot touch the sky if we stand on the roof. But what we have to do? If you stand on the coconut tree, you can touch the sky. Now Siddha says, a very difficult one for this little girl of 5 years only. He says that no, if we stand on the highest part and tallest part of the coconut tree, on the highest part of the coconut tree, then we can touch the sky. Why does he answer like this? What do you think, girls? You know, Siddha is making the situation tougher for Leela, because the next question from Leela would be a tougher for Siddha to reply. So, if he says that we can stand on the roof and touch the sky, then the next thing Leela would tell him to go to the roof and then try to touch the sky. That will be a bit difficult for Siddha. So he says that no, if we stand on the coconut tree, we can touch the sky. That is a bit difficult situation, isn't it? Have you done it? But see, Leela is just continuing her questions, intelligent questions, isn't it? Yes, many times. And he says, Siddha also is replying in the same manner. He says, yes, I've done it many times. Whenever there is a big moon, I climb a coconut tree and touch it. So, as I showed you the picture of a big ball of moon, Siddha also tells Leela in a beautiful manner that yes, he had done it, and whenever he'd stood on the coconut tree, he could touch the big ball, that is the big silvery moon. Does the moon know you? This is, I think, the most intelligent question of all the questions asked by Leela so far. What do you think, girls? Does the moon know you? So, it's a very intelligent question. Why? Because yes, if he had touched the sky, then he could have reached the moon, and then the moon can simply know Siddha. This is very obvious. And so she asks him, does the moon know you? Beautiful indeed. See the style of writing of R.K. Narayan. He writes in a very simplistic manner, and he creates an atmosphere, he creates an ambience which we can visualize. Can you not visualize the things? Yes, very well. Now come with me. I will show you something nice. Now, Siddha is trying to direct her to another direction, because now the things are getting more difficult for Siddha to tackle. The questions are getting more difficult for Siddha to reply. So, now he wants to deviate Siddha's attention to a different angle, to a different direction. Let us find out to which direction he is able to direct her mind. They were standing near the rose plant. He said, pointing, "You see the moon there, don't you?" Now, they were standing near the rose plant. So, how is it possible that somebody can see the moon in the rose plant? Is it possible? What do you think, girls? I also don't think that it is possible for somebody to see the moon in the rose plant. But see how Leela responds to this. Leela says, yes. See, it is written it's just a word. There is no sentence beside it or continued with it. Very simple, very short answer. Yes. And that is an answer of trust, of mutual trust, of the beautiful relationship they were sharing with each other, of the beautiful bonding they were sharing with each other. Yes. That was very impossible, isn't it? To see the moon in the rose plant was really impossible. But how come she was being able to see the moon? That was only because of the trust she was having in Siddha. Now come with me, he said, and took her to the backyard. Another situation that we are experiencing, and that is once again a very strange one. He stopped near the well and pointed up. The moon obviously is always in the sky, right, girls? But he stopped at the well and he pointed up. The moon was there too. Leela clapped her hands and screamed in wonder. The moon here, it was there. How is it? So see, the beautiful relationship Siddha is creating between Leela and the moon. Once upon a time, the moon was up in the sky. She could see the sky. She happened to touch the sky and the moon with the ball. And now, Siddha is creating an atmosphere where she can see the moon in the rose plant, and she can see the moon in the water of the well. Means it's very simple that she could see the reflection of the moon in the water of the well. So see how Siddha was able to make up the mind of this little girl and created some beautiful imaginary stories about the moon.